One of the ways in which students often lose marks in their work, whether it's a paper or a dissertation or even a thesis, is that they don't cite enough references, or they don't cite the right references, or they might miss out a few key references. So there is a way of making sure that you have all the right references for your work, and you can do this much more quickly if you use something called citation searching. So let me explain to you how that works. Why use citation searching? Well, it speeds up your reading because it's very useful when you have found a key article. Now, you can use a key article to search for other articles either forward in time or backward in time. And this is really useful when you identify a key author or a key piece of work in your field. And particularly if it's an older paper, and this is the example I'm going to use in this presentation, is finding an older paper that's really on the subject that you want to write about. It's really key to your topic, but you know that there will be other references that will have come after that piece of work that will be citing that one that you need to include, because you need your work to be up to date. You need to show your markers or your reviewers that you are up to date with your field. So how do you do this? Well, I'm going to use an example of my own that I was researching a few weeks ago when I was looking at the question of how medical staff behave in the operating theatre. And I found a really useful article by Pearl Katz called Ritual in the Operating Room, but it was over 40 years old, published in 1981. So my problem was, I knew there'd be more up-to-date articles on this subject that I would need to cite in my paper. So how could I find those references really quickly? So the solution was finding every paper that had cited the Katz paper from 1981 up until the present day. So using the author's name and the title, I was able to search 3 databases which I know are very useful for doing cited referencing searching. Not all databases are good at this because they don't all index the full article, including the references. But there are 3 databases that are particularly good at this, and they are the Web of Science, Scopus, and Google Scholar. So here's my question. Here's my title and author, Pearl Katz, Ritual in the Operating Room. How do I look for all the papers that have cited that paper since it was first published in 1981? Well, I went into Web of Science, and here you get your opening page, and you want to go into all fields, and here I'm going to put in the topic, but I'm also going to add a line, add a row, and use author as well. So here I've got Ritual in the Operating Room by Pearl Katz. So I do a search, and there it is. There's her paper. And here you'll see on the right hand side, it notes that there are 78 citations of this paper. So I need to find those citations. So I click on 78, the number on the right hand side there, and here I've got these papers that cite the Katz reference. So what do I do with these? Well, one of the things I can see from looking at the citation report is a lot of these citations have been quite recent. So as time's gone on, the Katz paper has been cited more and more because these are the number of citations. So that's useful. So I know that the paper is actually becoming, if you like, more relevant, not less relevant as time goes on. So I pull up the list of papers that I know of cite Katz, and I tick the checkbox here, or put the tick in the box here for the ones that I want to keep. And I go through the list, and I end up with a list of references that I've got a checkbox next to it, and then I can export them. So it says when I decide to export, you've selected 10 results for export, and there it says where it's going to export it to, which is my work email address, which is what I want. And then I get 18 records exported. Of these, 3 were discounted as pre-2000 and not really on the topic. I reduced it to 7 very relevant records based on looking at the abstracts, and 4 of the 11 rejected records were actually useful for other papers, so I put those to one side. So I conducted the same style search with both Scopus and Google Scholar with these results. So here's Scopus. Again, you're in Documents and you want to use these search within the document here. It defaults to first author, which I don't want. So in the drop-down menu, I go down to References here and select References. So that's what I want to search. And then I put in the title of the work, and I put in ritual and in and the and operating and room. So that's the way it likes to do it in Scopus. So I found 156 documents, was obviously quite a lot. And out of those 156, I went through the list, and you can see here another checkbox, looked at the title and checked the box. When I'd finished going through the 156, I got 49 and I was able to export them to plain text. So here it gives me the option of what is it I want to export. So here's all the citation information that I can export, and I also added here abstract because I also wanted to export the abstract so that I can go into a little bit more detail and work out which ones I don't want to keep anymore. So as I went through Scopus, as well as going through the ones I wanted, I recognised a lot from the Web of Science search that I knew were duplicates, so I was able to eliminate those. And in total, I selected 21 records. 6 were saved for a different paper, so that left 15 for this paper in total. So here I'm going to show you how to use Google Scholar to do the same sort of search. So if we type in Google Scholar, and we pull that up, and then let's put in, you see I've already got it in my drop down box there, so and it brings up Katz's paper in Google Scholar, Ritual in the Operating Room. So we know we've got the right paper, and notice here we have a series of options. Now we want this option here, which is cited by 223. So these are the references that cite Katz in some way or another. So click on that and we will see we've got actually quite a lot of results, 223 as it said, which is probably quite a lot to just scan through. So we can reduce that down a little bit by using this function, search within citing articles, and I'm going to use the phrase surgery to reduce it here, and now I've got it down to 152. So one of the things you can do in Google Scholar, obviously if you scroll down, you'll see you've got this little save function here. So if you want to save a reference, you can click on it and it gives you the option to save it as part of a reading list. So you can label it as a reading list and then click done, and it saves it to my library up here. These are all my references from Google Scholar in my library. So it will add it to your library. So if you want to keep it separate, you could do this. Create new and then call it something else. Call it, let's call it Katz. And then done. Go to my library. And then you'll see you've got reading list and then Katz. So we can pull it up. We've just got one there. So you can separate your reading lists out so that you can so that they're easier to manage, essentially. So let's go back to where we were. So let's say we've chosen these papers that we want to save. And then we can, as we say, add it to reading list. And it goes to my library. And then we want to export. So we click on export all. We're given an option of whether we want to export it to a bibliographic database of some kind, or just as a CSV file, which is essentially an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to export it as an Excel spreadsheet essentially. It gives me the option to export articles on this page or export all articles in my library. So in this case, I'm going to export all articles in my library, export, and then you'll see it appears in the bottom corner here, and then you can just save that wherever you want to save it. So that's how you search for citations in Google Scholar. So with Google Scholar, I eliminated duplicates from both Web of Science and Scopus as I went through. I selected 12 records in total. 1 I saved for a different paper, 7 I discarded, and so that left me with just 4. So the 3 citation searches gave us 26 records in total to look at in more detail. And having gone through them again and looked at the abstracts again more closely, I've divided them up into 3 categories. 1 category of which is very relevant for the paper I'm writing. The other 2 I think will come in handy later on. So I've got about 7 or 8 references which I think are absolutely key to the paper I'm writing and which I will cite when I write it. So because we've tracked the papers that have cited cats from 1981 until now on the same sort of subject that we're writing about, which is operating theatres and surgery, we can be confident we've mapped that particular field, which is surgery as ritual, because that relates to the paper that I'm writing. So if you'd like more help with academic writing, visit my website, lynn-brierley-jones.com, or find me on Facebook at Academic Writing Excellence, or email me lynn@lynn-brierley-jones.com. I hope you found that useful, and happy writing.